Hi, welcome back to my cozy nook in South Africa, where I will be sharing what I'm going to be doing in my garden this season. I'm also going to be sharing what I do with my harvests from the garden, sharing some cooking tips as well as fermenting and pickling tips. So if that's for you, then do like and subscribe so that you can always stay updated with new content. So for those of you that did tune in last week, I shared with you what I was planning on putting into the garden. However, if you're a gardener, you'll know that sometimes you have this grand idea and along the way it just changes. So that is exactly what happened. I bored you with a couple of minutes of sharing what I'm going to be planting seed-wise, and I didn't end up planting any of those seeds, so I'm so sorry for that. But I'm going to quickly just tell you what I did direct so far since we last spoke. So I've already done Black Beauty eggplant, carrot nantes, Charleston grey watermelon, Early Wonder beetroot, Curry Mama red pepper, and Rio Grande tomato. These were all gifted to me by my friend, and I'm just so grateful for these new seeds. They are apparently heirloom seeds, so I'm guessing they are going to really do very well. And then I still have a lot that needs to go into pots and containers. Now my idea was to mostly plant in pots and containers this season because I have a really big tree that takes up most of my space in the garden, and it casts a very large area of shade. So as you know, sun is really important, so I'm gonna have to move around if I see something is not thriving. What I have already done is I've also decided that I've got a patch, which I'll show you in a bit, that everything is just popping up. So last season I had some coriander, which you might know as cilantro, basil, marigolds, cosmos. I had a whole variety, pumpkins, a whole variety that was planted in the one strip. And now it seems like when those all went to seed, some of the seeds went and fell onto the ground, and they stayed dormant throughout the winter, and now everything is just popping up. And it's popping up in quite a random pattern, but I think all of them will work in a nice symbiosis. So what I'm thinking is I'm gonna leave that one strip and let it sort of just go wild, pull some of the stuff out that has pests at the moment, which I'm also going to show you, because yes, I went into the garden when I went to direct sow, and I found the grossest but grossest pest. What about a solution that can work? So if you have any advice, I'm keen to hear about it. Also, on the previous episode I mentioned that I found some peas in the garden, and one of my subscribers actually commented and told me, luckily because I didn't research that in time, told me that those are actually not edible. They are just ornamental peas, and that just means that it's just good to look at, and it's very toxic for humans. Now fortunately I will always go and research before I actually pick something and eat it, because yeah, you can never be too sure. And most of the things in the garden I know because I planted, but that was something that owners of the land actually sowed and they popped up. So thank you so much for that comment. That was really needed information. Thank you. I'm going to take you out to the garden so that I can actually show you the pest that I saw. They walk around in such a weird formation. It's actually like very soldier-like. So I'm keen to get rid of them. And I think I'm just going to pull out the whole plant altogether. And you will not believe where I actually found it. On one of my favorite plants. Let me take you outside. Please mind the sun. It is full sun outside. Okay, so as you can see, the symbioses are quite nice. There the marigolds have popped up, and there's already coriander, and everything is like sort of just like growing next to each other. I do have some slugs that seems to be enjoying the cabbage. On here, I think you call it aphids. They're so nasty. Aren't they nasty? So I heard if you take water and you mix sunlight liquid or just dishwashing soap with it and dilute it, you can actually put that on the plant and it will take the aphids away. What do you think? Is that good, solid advice? You'll see that there's also some basil popping up there. Now I know that the cilantro, which is like pretty much everywhere, but the cilantro grows quite tall, so does the basil. So I'm gonna have to weed this out, but I think I want to leave this whole stretch just so that it can just go a bit wild. So you'll also, if you've watched before, you'll know that I really do love my turnip plant, and it's grown so tall. And also I wanted to leave it to go to seed so I can get a whole bunch of seeds. So all these little pods are filled with seeds. But now look at this. Now I think I'm in a good mind to actually just take this out. And I've actually checked, they actually move in succession like soldiers. Okay, but anyway, so that might just come out. My sage is growing really nicely. It's popping back up again, which I'm truly grateful for. I love making sage tea. And there's a whole bunch of marigolds. Now over here, I ended up planting some beetroot into the ground. So I'm hoping the beetroot will pop up there. But I want to take you to the back because since we last spoke, wow, the little fruits have just started popping up everywhere. We have the apricots already making a nice appearance. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And it's only like spring has just started. Oh, I can't wait. Let me just show you some of the figs. So we've got a total of 3 fig trees in the garden. I don't see any little figs on this tree as yet, but just look at all the leaves that have started popping up. Last time I mentioned that I planted some radishes, and I actually wanted to let some of them go to flower so I can show you what the flowers look. So this is the radish flower. Isn't that beautiful? I've actually left a couple of them in the ground, and I did pick some of them. So I was keen on showing you what I did with the radishes. The radishes were so tasty that I actually just stored them in the fridge to eat them raw in salads. And I wanted to leave some of them for you to see what it looks like when it goes to flower. The kale is popping up beautifully. I mean, this is just after 2 weeks since I've shown you. That's how lovely they've grown already. And as you can see here, we have more pests, so that's not good. That is not good at all. I'm gonna have to get this under control. Look at the banana tree already. Wow, she's looking beautiful. And then obviously my spinach is doing really well. So this part doesn't have any aphids, which I'm very grateful for, but I always struggle with slugs in this part of the garden. So any advice for slugs? I've heard that crushed up eggshells can also work. And then here I've got my compost, well, just some leaves that I've saved throughout the winter, and they are looking really nice, breaking down and just becoming really good to add to the soil. I have another patch which I am just going to be planting some flowers in, and they should pop up really quickly. Very excited about that. Some grapes to look forward to, and everything is already starting to look really lovely. So now that you know what the garden looks like, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm sure that there are a lot of you out there that have way more gardening experience than me, so please feel free to share in the comments down below if you've got any tips or ideas on how to better lay out a garden that doesn't have a lot of sun to work with. I'm going to be putting some organic Vita Boost into my garden, into the ground. So these are just little ball-like nutrients that looks like this. like peppercorns. So that you're just going to throw onto the ground and onto the soil, and actually you have to water it and sort of just like work some of it into the ground, because if you just leave it to lie on top of the soil, it can actually burn in the sun and it could do your plant some damage. So I did work some of it into the ground before I direct sowed, and I'm going to be mixing some of this into my soil along with the earthworm castings and garden compost, as well as some of the leaves that I just showed you. So that will be the mixture that I'm going to be using throughout my planting journey for this season, and let's see if that's going to be sufficient. I also started a compost heap a while back. Now I'm talking about maybe a year back already, and this compost heap, I put all the raw cut-offs, like cuttings of vegetables and fruits that I would like to throw away. I just throw it onto the compost heap, and I make sure to keep it nice and wet, and also to turn it every 3 days or so, because it can actually heat up and it can set fire if you just leave your compost to be on its own. It does create like what I've heard, whose garden compost heap actually started like combusting into fire, which is not ideal. Okay, that's not something we want. So keep it nice and wet, and also keep turning your compost. Once that compost is really, really nice and broken down, then I'll obviously start adding that into the garden as well. But what is something that I've learned is, if you don't plant, you can't harvest, and if you don't start, you can't have a result. So it's good to start somewhere, even if you're making mistakes along the way. I loved hanging with you today, and thank you for spending this time with me. You share what your ideas are, if you have any ideas for me to make my garden better, and also share with me what you're doing in your garden and where you are watching from in the world. I hope to see you again next week. Stay shining.